Let me show you how you can manage fonts. And there's a few ways of doing this. Let's go back into Control Panel. I'm going to roll my mouse over the lower left corner of the screen, right click, go into Control Panel. Now, when you're looking at this, there's nothing here that says fonts. Now, I happen to know that if I want to manage fonts, I could go over here and click Appearance and Personalization, and there are fonts over there. But let's say you didn't know that. So let's go back to the Control Panel main screen. A few other ways we can do this. See up here where it says Search Control Panel. You could click there and type fonts. And you see there's no submit button or anything. You just type in, and whatever you type, it searches for here. And there's fonts. I can click that. Let me show you a few others. I'm just going to click that X. So now I'm back here. I could also go up here instead of looking by category. I could choose large icons or small icons. And I can find fonts over here. Let's go back to category. What I find easiest is not even coming into Control Panel at all. Let me close this. And that's using a keyboard shortcut. And don't worry if you don't like the keyboard shortcut, we'll go back and do it the mousy way anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Windows logo key on the keyboard, and I'll press R. So I'll press Windows key R. That brings up the Run dialog box. And then all I have to do is type the word fonts and press Enter. And it brings up my list of fonts. Now let me close this. Go back into Control Panel. And this time we'll kind of go in the, maybe call it the manual slow way. Go to Appearance and Personalization, go to Fonts, and you see it's the same dialog box. Just in this case it's running full screen, and before it wasn't running full screen. Now this is showing all of the fonts that are on my computer. Now some of the fonts that I have, you'll have on yours, but I may have fonts that you don't have, and vice versa. But it's all right. Just click any one, and you see down here on the bottom of the screen it gives us some information. If you want to double click a font, it might show you varieties like bold and italic and so on. I'll double click that, and this shows me a sample. It gives me up here what the font name is, if it's digitally signed and so forth, and here at different sizes. Let me close this. I'll go back to the main list of fonts. Now, not every font is going to have bold and italic and so on. I'll just double click maybe Algerian. And that immediately brings up the samples at these different sizes, and again, the same information here. And I can scroll down. By the way, you see this is 72. These numbers there on the left side, that means point size. 72 points means 1 inch, because in typography, there are 72 points to 1 inch, so 72 point type means 1 inch size type. Also, in most of these, you can click print, and it'll just print out a sample for you. Let me close this. You might also want to look at this in different ways. See up here in the upper right corner, I'm looking at this in large icons, and you can look at this maybe in medium or small icons, a list, so you can see more of these fonts listed in the same amount of space. I always find details to be most helpful, because this just shows me the most information. I can choose any font and I can see what's the style, is it hidden or not, or where is it designed for, and all that stuff. Let me just go back to large icons here. What if we want to go and install a font? A couple of ways of doing this. Number one, I'm going to click this little restore button there. I'll just drag this off to the side. Now on your desktop, let's go into the class files folder. I'll show you a cool feature with Windows a little bit later, so you don't have to mess with dragging these over all over the place. But let's go into the Chapter 3 folder. And I have this font. It's a freeware font. It's called Sonder. And you see there's this little font file here that has this little A in the icon. And this one here with a little notepaper icon, that's just the license of the font, so you could ignore that. If I want to install a font, a couple of ways I could do it. I could take the font and simply drag it in here into the fonts folder. But it's even easier than that. I don't have to bother with that. And I don't have to bother with rearranging the windows on the screen. Let me just minimize the fonts folder there. All I have to do is right-click the font. I'll put my mouse pointer on the font, click the right mouse button, and from the pop-up menu, choose Install. Nothing could be easier, so you don't have to worry about this window and the other window. So I'm just going to click Install. It's telling me that it's installing, and boom, we're done. Let's go back into the fonts window, and it's down here on the taskbar. I'll just click it. I'm going to maximize it, and an easier way, see I have the maximize button over here. I could click that to maximize it, but in every version of Windows, from the beginning all the way up through Windows 8, what I find easier to maximize a window is instead, see this big blue title bar is a much bigger target than that little maximize button. I could put my mouse pointer anywhere on the title bar and double click, and that will restore the window. Double clicking the title bar will bring it back to the restored state as well. Anyway, back at the ranch, let's go find that font called Sonder. Now I could go and scroll through and find the fonts that begin with the letter S, or I could just click any old font here and just type the letter S on the keyboard, and it'll go to the first font in the folder that begins with the letter S. As it happens here, Sonder, it's alphabetic, it's the second one there, and I'll double click it, and now it shows me a font sample. Let's go use it. I'm going to close that. I want to go back to the main start screen. So I'll just roll the mouse over the lower left corner and click. And I have Microsoft Word here. Doesn't matter which version of Word you're using. And if you're not using Word, that's okay. You could use something else. I'll click over here at Blank Document. And I'll just type some text. And this is just showing me the default is Calibri. I'm going to select the text, click up here, there's Sonder. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'll just click this little arrow there. So now we can see that's Sonder. Okay, that's great, but maybe you don't have Microsoft Word. I'm just going to close Word. I'm not going to bother saving. Go back to the Start menu. I'm going to right-click somewhere in the blank area here. Go to All Apps. Now, even if you don't have Microsoft Word, you still have the trusty old WordPad, and this has been built into versions of Microsoft Windows going way back. So I'll click that. It works the same way. And I'll just select the text here. Go in there. And there it is. The WordPad works pretty much the same way as Microsoft Word. And there's the font that I'm using. And same thing, I'll close WordPad. I'm not going to bother saving it. Now, what if I decide that I want to remove the font? Again, let's go find it. I'll click any old font. I'll hit S. There it is. Looking at these big fonts, I just find this hard to read. Anyway, I want to remove it. So once it's selected, all I have to do is press the delete key on the keyboard and says, are you sure you want to delete it? Choose yes, and now it's gone. I want to show you also one of my favorite font features in Windows. Now before I do that, see over here where it says get more font information online. I'm not even going to bother clicking that. You might think, oh great, this is going to give me more info on Script MT Bold or System Bold or Tahoma or whatever it is. It won't. All that's going to do is going to take you to a page on Microsoft's website that just talks about fonts in general. You don't need me to read that to you. If you're interested, you can click that, but I'm not going to go there.